President Trump is launching a full-scale assault on the far left. In this video, we're going to take a look at the twofold front Trump has unleashed on the liberal left and how his counteroffensive is effectively pushing back the forces that want to destroy our nation and setting Trump up for a massive landslide win in November. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve with you, patriots all across the globe. Great to be with you as always. If you're new to our channel, we analyze current events, analyze some super awesome conservative trends so you can live in the present light of even better things to come. We help you to think better so you can feel better. So if you haven't already done so, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It'd be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel, where together, each and every day, we celebrate the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. Now, before we dive in here, I want to give a huge shout out to two sites, whatfinger.com and newsammo.com. These are two awesome news aggregates that I visit and use every single day, and they're featuring our videos on their site. So we want to give them a huge shout out to whatfinger.com and newsammo.com. There'll be links down below for you to check them out. And finally, there's just one more day left, 24 hours left for you to enter to get a 1-year free Turley Talks Insiders Club membership. We're offering this as part of our official launch of our brand new Turley Talks podcast. This is a response to the frequent requests that we've gotten from you. Many of you have asked if we could put our videos in a podcast form, and you've got it. Your wish is our command. Now you can listen anywhere and anytime with our special podcast editions. And I'd be so grateful if you'd be so kind as to share the link below with others who you think would enjoy these podcasts. That would be a wonderful gift to the both of us, both to me and to your acquaintances. And if you click on that link below right now and download our new podcast by July 8th, that's tomorrow. If you click on the link below by then, you'll be entered in to win one of my book bundles, and you get a free Turley Talks Insiders Club membership for an entire year. So you do not want to wait for this, okay? Just 24 hours left. Click on that link below and enjoy our brand new podcast specials and get entered into our free giveaways today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. We have got some amazing developments going on. After delivering his epic speech at Mount Rushmore, more and more pundits are beginning to realize that we are indeed seeing President Trump launching nothing short of a full-scale assault on the far left, one that's already setting him up for a landslide win in November. Now, what we have to understand is that the Trump administration is launching a twofold front against the far left, the radical left that has hijacked the Democrat Party. And this is the kind of Marxist left like what we saw in Seattle. And no, I'm not talking about the leftist loons who set up the Chaz Autonomous Zone. I'm actually talking about the insane Democrat-dominated city council that actually threatened the mayor of Seattle with impeachment if she didn't side with the rioters and looters. The city council is so far left, they're so filled with Marxist revolutionary fervor that they had the gall of threatening the mayor with impeachment if she sided with the police amidst all the lawless rioting and looting. All right, how's that for collective insanity when you have so-called lawmakers siding with lawbreakers and then threatening to impeach the mayor if she didn't do the same? So, you know, I said it a few times in our past videos, but it bears repeating. I don't know about you, but I'm really beginning to have second thoughts about breaking up the Chaz Autonomous Zone. Maybe that was an improvement over the left-wing nuts that run Seattle, right? Maybe the warlord isn't too far off from what already represents Seattle's government. But make no mistake, the damage that these cultural Marxists who run our nation's cities, or better, again, I talked about this yesterday, who ruin our nation's cities, that's what we talked about in yesterday's video. These cultural Marxist city councils and mayors do not run cities. That would require for them to be engaged in some kind of actual governance, some kind of actual responsible administrative lawmaking and law enforcement in these cities, which of course they are not doing, right? They're all for law breaking and then throwing police officers under the bus. But regardless, these Democrat-ruined cities have done their damage for sure, both in terms of life and economic livelihood, but also in terms of political damage, in that these riots clearly hurt President Trump in the opinion polls. And we could see why. This unprecedented abdication of enforcement authority by Democrat mayors and governors has placed President Trump in a precarious situation. The refusal of leftist governors and mayors to exercise their enforcement authority within our federal system of delegated jurisdiction, it's amounted to nothing less than a collective mutiny against the president. So the media portrayed the riots as a nation rising up against a racist president, demanding social justice, right? At the same time, Trump's threat to deploy the military was undermined by a Defense Department leadership that's been radically neutered by political correctness. Just think of the way the Secretary of Defense contradicted President Trump's call for a military deployment at one of his press conferences, where this defense secretary sounded more like Nancy Pelosi than Donald Trump. He's going down, by the way. He's going to get fired the moment Trump wins re-election, which he obviously, this defense secretary, hopes he does. I'm talking about Mark Esper, the defense secretary. And so for a time, it really did appear that all Trump could do was just speak loudly while carrying a flimsy twig. But that was then. Now we're beginning to see a twofold frontal assault against the far left opening up, and it really is nothing short of brilliant. So, on one front, Trump is using the full force of the law to arrest and prosecute Antifa and Black Lives Matter members. It was just announced a few days back that the federal prosecutors have indeed arrested what they're calling a ringleader of Antifa, who was involved in trying to pull down the Andrew Jackson statue outside of the White House last month. A Utah man by the name of Jesse Taggart, who's a Black Lives Matter radical, was arrested and charged with attempted aggravated murder, aggravated assault, and rioting. In Des Moines, Iowa, law enforcement officers began arresting BLM demonstrators on the state capitol grounds. Police actually used pepper spray to disperse the crowd, which was indeed successfully disbanded. And moreover, it's being reported that federal investigators are even going on Facebook and other social media and arresting people for inciting riots through social media. So Trump is dropping the hammer on left-wing extremists, and they're running scared as a result. They know the arrests are coming. On the other front, Trump is challenging the cultural Marxist narrative with a fundamentally different one rooted in a unifying vision of civic nationalism. And that's where his speech at Mount Rushmore comes in. Now, we talked about this on Saturday's live feed, but I firmly believe that the Mount Rushmore speech was a trap set for the far left. And right on cue, they took the bait. They couldn't resist. Mount Rushmore is perfect 4D chess for Trump, and he played the Democrats like fools. Now, this was brilliant, because in many ways what Trump did is he exposed what radical lunatics the Democrats have become. So it's one thing, for example, to tear down monuments in Baltimore, Detroit, in cities most Americans haven't visited or don't plan on visiting. It's one thing to tear down local statues and monuments that the vast majority of Americans don't know anything about. They didn't know were there in the first place. It's a whole other thing to call for the desecration, destruction of national monuments like Mount Rushmore. No one really knows local monuments. Everyone knows Mount Rushmore. And so by scheduling a 4th of July weekend speech underneath the majesty of that monument, and then talking explicitly about the destruction of our monuments and the assault on our history, Trump hit a home run by exposing just how horrendous the cultural Marxist narrative of white supremacy and systemic racism really is. He exposed it for the radically destructive ideology that it actually is. He got the New York Times to publish a scathing piece that accused Mount Rushmore of being the product of racist vitriol. Keep in mind, this is a mainstream Marxist media that had no problem whatsoever with Mount Rushmore when Obama visited there and gave a speech. But now suddenly, it's the paragon of prejudice, a monument to racism. But again, it's essential for us to understand that that just played right into Trump's hand. In fact, Trump got 2 for 1. Not only did he expose the libs of the New York Times and CNN and MSNBC for being the radical lunatics they are with Mount Rushmore calling for its destruction, but he did it on the 4th of July. And in turn, he actually got the Democrats to tweet out that celebrating the 4th of July at Mount Rushmore was white supremacism, which was so over the top they had to delete the tweet. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. Trump exposed their insanity to such a degree that the DNC actually had to delete the tweet. Now, in contrast to all that cultural Marxist hysteria, what vision, what narrative did Trump put forward over at Mount Rushmore? Trump gave a soaring speech heralding our nation's birth, its unparalleled achievements, and the glories of our history, a glory that includes an even greater future. For Trump, we are all Americans, black, white, Latino, Asian. We are all one people in the image of God. Yes, we all have different backgrounds, different ethnicities and the like, but when we come here, we are part of something that transcends our personal backgrounds and enclaves. We're part of a historic nation like no other that has brought us together to share in a common culture, a common inheritance, and yes, a common destiny for the betterment of ourselves and for the benefit of humanity. That's the vision, the unifying vision of civic nationalism that Donald Trump is the one of the major leading defenders of. After the Mount Rushmore celebration, pundits like Tucker Carlson, Dick Morris, many others, said that it was one of Trump's greatest speeches he's ever given. And it was. It painted a fundamentally different vision for America and America's future from that of the rabidly destructive vision of cultural Marxism perpetrated by the mainstream Marxist media. In fact, Trump's speech celebrating our nation's culture, customs, and traditions rendered the leftist radicalism of the Democrats patently and obviously absurd. A recent poll by Rasmussen found that a whopping 75% of likely voters support and revere Mount Rushmore and want leftists to keep their hands off it. Only 17% of the public thinks like the New York Times and MSNBC does. 17%. President Trump has tapped into a supermajority of support for his defense of our nation's culture, customs, and traditions. And make no mistake, that supermajority is going to propel President Trump to a landslide victory in November. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on narcissistic Black Lives Matter activists who are actually shocked and offended that their murals and monuments are being vandalized across the country. It's hilarious, and you're not going to want to miss it. Make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.